Is the Piranha Gun the best biome chest weapon in Terraria? I didn't know, so I decided to try out and max it out on damage. So starting out with all three of them on single target, it gets up to 3,000 damage per second. In case you've never actually used this weapon, it basically just latches on a bunch of piranhas to your enemies and then does damage over time. So it's a really good support weapon or a good weapon for tanks, as you don't actually have to aim to attack. And for this video, we'll be testing out against a bunch of boss fights and at the end against the Moonlord, which is an insane fight and took quite a while, but wasn't that bad. So overall, the Piranha Gun is definitely kind of annoying to farm for, as you have to get the jungle key, which is a tiny % chance from any enemy killed in the jungle biome, and then you can use it in the dungeon on the jungle chest after defeating Plantera. Moving into the boss fights, the gear I'll be using is a ranger modified version of my maxed out damage loadout, which I'll have the video linked in the description and at the end in a playlist. So here are my accessories. I'll go over them pretty quick, as they are just maximum damage plus a few for ranger class specifically, as the other video was melee. And starting out, a mech fight, as I figured that would probably be the easiest since this is technically a post-Plantera weapon. So I started by focusing Spaz, and it's super easy, because all you have to do is latch. It shoots up to 3 piranhas out, and I latch all 3 of them on, and then just sit there and dodge attacks, and hold down the button, and it just instantly kills the enemy within a couple seconds. This is definitely one of the better weapons for a biome chest, but is it better than vampire knives? That will answer towards the end of the video. Moving on to Retinas, it was actually really good. And then against Destroyer, there are definitely better ranged options, like the Flamethrower, Data the Stormbow of course, and Star Cannon. But this did do pretty good taking it out without actually having to aim, as it was really easy to get the 3 latched onto it. After Destroyer was Skeletron Prime, which was actually really simple, because all I had to do was latch all 3 onto the actual skull and then run away and dodge attacks, and it was able to take it down really quickly. Overall, of course, this weapon is post-Plantera, so definitely not meant for mechs, but it's a great weapon. Next, Plantera, as I'm going through the boss order. And for Plantera, it definitely did a bit worse, but Plantera, of course, comes after the mechs. So it latched on. I made sure to get as many latched on as possible, as if they miss, they just won't be doing damage. By the way, if you stop holding the weapon down and try to shoot another, it'll despawn the old ones. So second phase, I reapplied the piranhas, and it did shred through it pretty easily. If you had an actual arena to dodge attacks, it would do well. For Golem, this weapon did amazing. I was able to latch on the core and then focus on just dodging attacks, and easily destroy it, and then take down the rest of the core, without the arms even getting in the way. So I was able to take down Golem without touching the arms. And now, Moonlord, as Lunatic Cultist would be bad, and this is not a crowd control weapon for the pillars. So I started out by just focusing the eye on his left hand, and the good thing is the piranha stayed on it while the eye was closed, so I didn't have to keep shooting them out. And it actually did really well taking out this eye. Moving on to the head eye, took quite a while to actually get the piranhas on, as this is definitely hard to aim, as it's very inconsistent with the spread of the piranhas. But it did really well once the eye opened, though definitely lacking a little on damage, but I didn't have to aim it. So this weapon is definitely viable for Moonlord. Amazing for Golem, I would totally recommend that. And I did a cultist fight off camera, and it did okay. Definitely a little worse than some other weapons you could use for Ranger class. I'll speed the footage up here so the fight doesn't take too long, but the next fights will be Empress of Light, Daytime Empress of Light, and Duke Fishron, which it actually did surprise me for those fights. So finishing up Moonlord, moving on to its right hand, it did about the same as the left hand, and then moving on to the core also did pretty well, as I could focus on dodging attacks, even though I don't really have to, having endgame gear, rather than focusing on hitting. Now moving on to Nighttime Empress of Light. This was actually really well, as I could just latch on and dodge attacks, which is why I thought maybe I should try Daytime. But overall, this was just a pretty simple nighttime fight, though, like all of the others. As soon as I got the piranhas onto the Empress of Light, it was very easy because I could just focus on dodging attacks rather than also focusing on aiming hits. This weapon's definitely really good for players who are just trying to learn attack patterns of bosses and don't want to be focusing on attacking it while also dodging, As you can see here, I definitely need some practice with Empress of Light's attacks, but this weapon did do really well. Moving on to daytime, I would recommend this weapon for use against day, because as soon as you hit daytime Empress of Light with it, you can just hold down the button while focusing on dodging attacks. Right there, it appeared that my Brain of Cthulhu saved me, as once again, I'm not amazing at this fight, just good enough to take it down with late game gear. And once again, I would totally recommend this weapon. I'd say it's probably one of the best ranged weapons for you to fight daytime Empress of Light with. Next to some like Daedalus Stormbow, those don't have quite the damage, nor the accuracy of this, as soon as you latch them on, you don't have to do anything. So I was able to easily take out daytime Empress of Light. And Duke Fishron was even easier, as I could completely focus on dodging attacks as with every other boss in this video, and the piranhas would stay on during the fight, even while changing phase, so I didn't have to shoot them back out after changing to second phase. And it did really well. Overall, I would say this isn't better than the Vampire Knives, as it's a different class, but if you're playing Ranger class, I definitely recommend farming for it, as it's not too hard, as it's from any enemy killed within the biome, and excels against any boss fight in hard mode, though is definitely not a crowd control weapon for events, as this is where this weapon just absolutely sucks, as you don't want to be fighting pillars with this. For pillars, I'd recommend using something like, as soon as you defeat the Vortex Pillar, Vortex Beater, or Phantasm Bow. Thanks for watching. If you want some more Terraria reviews and comparisons like this one, click the link on the bottom right. The bottom left is a playlist with maxing stuff out, including the loadout that I used for this video, maxing out damage. Top left is what YouTube thinks you want to watch next. Top right's the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more.